this is exciting. Tonight, well, this guy of many talents, he's this is quite the story. He's got blacksmithing, which is, as we all know, like the sexiest of all smithings. Then he's got falconry, like actual live falcons, which is the coolest of raptors. And if that wasn't enough, he is a beekeeper, like Lord of the Bees, which is something close to my own heart. And then if that wasn't enough, to top it off, like an unexpected little cherry, he brews the mead with the honey from the bees. So it can only get better by having him on our show, which is what we just did. Ladies and gentlemen, Raptors and Prey, I present John from Burrows Forge. Sorry.
Hello.
Yay!
Hey. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it. I actually have an intro video that I can show you guys if you want to check it out.
Yeah.
So people can get an idea of what we do at the stream. So let me pull it up here for you. Let's go. Good. See, this is what we want. Call. She shows up. This is pretty much what we do. So this has got all stages of root on it. See him right there? They're in the center. He's chewing his way out.
Basic shape.
All right. So for those of you listening at home, that was an intro video that we just showed, a 60-second intro that I actually made for a magazine or zine, online zine article thing, which happened to just flow right into being a Twitch 60-second intro video. And that was my first time learning how to edit anything online. And so I taught myself how to use Premiere Pro, and that 60-second video took me 26 hours to make. And I used a bunch of just Twitch clips and things that I had from my Twitch archive or whatever. So, but we were just showing falconry, beekeeping, and blacksmithing.
And, I'd like to point out that it actually took you longer than that to make because you have all the years of experience and knowledge and practice thrown into it, too.
So the falconry was mostly, bees and falconry, most of that was learned on Twitch. And then the blacksmithing, really, a lot of it was done on Twitch. So a lot of these hobbies, and that's something I think I like to share with people, is most of what I've done through Twitch, and Twitch has really been this avenue for me to kind of grow my hobbies and learn new things. So I've been a blacksmith 5 years before I started streaming on Twitch, but I was like a once a month kind of blacksmith where I would pull stuff out of the garage or it would all be covered with stuff and I couldn't get to it, or I'd have something else going on. And in that first year of streaming blacksmithing and doing it 2 or 3 days a week, I became a better blacksmith in that first year of Twitch than I ever was the 5 years previous.
Wow.
And so the same thing with beekeeping. I used to do beekeeping every Saturday or something. I'd be out with the bees. And so most of, I would say 90% of what I learned about bees was on Twitch with everyone, learning with everyone as I figured out how to be a beekeeper. And then with falconry, I had done a lot of that work previously, but then I had another evening where I would work with my bird on stream. That was a Wednesday night stream. And I would work with Estrella, and we would do a lot of just drills and stuff with people. And then occasionally we would go out and hunt on a Saturday instead of beekeeping. And we'd be out in the field working with her. So Twitch has really been my kind of hobby time that I've dedicated to kind of learn new things and to pursue my interests.
So So which hobby came first?
Wow. So I guess it would be blacksmithing.
Okay.
The first time I did blacksmithing, I was 17 at a SCA event, which I actually listened to the last podcast that you guys had. It's kind of like a Ren Fair,
Okay.
but it's more organized. It's the Society for Creative Anachronisms, and it's like a medieval. It's like called Ren Fair is kind of hard, but it's like a Ren Fair with a persistent kind of environment behind it. But there's also people who do a lot of scientific research and like college level doctorates on like the clothing that people wore in the time period, and they'll do all the research and have all the documentation for it. And so it's kind of like a Ren Fair times 1,000 or whatever. And my first time I ever did blacksmithing was at one of these events, and I liked it so much that I spent the entire weekend with this man. I'm still not sure if it's a man or woman. Their name was Flea, and they taught me how to do some blacksmithing stuff, and it was so cool. I loved it, and I was like 17 or 18 at the time, and then I never touched it again until I was like 32 or something. So I had a big gap in my life, and where I didn't have a chance to really pursue that because I've been moving around so much. My parents divorced when I was young. I kind of spent half my time in Washington D.C. area, half my time in Vermont growing up, and then I went to school. I went to college. I have a bachelor's degree in international business. I did that in Vermont, but I did a bunch of jobs in between, for being like a bouncer to working in hotels and restaurants. I worked at a video game store for a while, and then I went and traveled. I lived in Japan for 6 months. I lived in Germany for 6 months, and then I ended up in Maui for 7 years. I went there on vacation, and I just decided to stay, like one does. And I lived in Maui for
Right.
7 years.
Like one
Okay.
does.
And I was just traveling so much that I just didn't have time to get back into blacksmithing or the falconry, the beekeeping and stuff. And so now that I have a little bit more of a home base, it's allowed me to, I actually have a garage, and it allowed me a little bit of, more time to pursue these things in an environment that's a little bit more constructive. And Twitch actually was the big secret for me. I've always done little things here and there. I do electronics. I build like circuit boards and stuff and make computers do things, and which I think is really interesting. We'll have to incorporate in the stream someday. And I kind of did that, but I would lose interest in it or not do it enough. But I'm going to tell you guys a secret right now, and I want to give some value to people that listen to this podcast. If you want to learn how to do something, and you're lazy, me, because I'm a very lazy person, it seems, I find myself, you can get external accountability through a platform like Twitch or Patreon or a podcast or whatever it is, some kind of social platform, because my biggest challenge when I came home from work, I was tired. I sat on the couch. I wanted to watch TV with my wife or play video games or do whatever. And it's, I did it for 5 years, and I wouldn't go out in the garage and I wouldn't blacksmith. But then once you have some external accountability for a stream, for me, that was the golden ticket, because I'm a proper person. I have ADHD. I don't have very good self-discipline, and I needed to have that schedule. And it changed my life, being able to do all this kind of stuff, being able to learn how to blacksmith and beekeeping and falconry and all that. And so it's, if there's anything that you want to learn how to play an instrument, how to do knitting or sewing or whatever, start a stream. And you'll meet some people. You may not have anyone there, but it has its own benefits, which can be very, very helpful.
Okay, John, I just gotta say, in that span of time, there is more that I learned about you, and there is more that you have done in your one lifetime than I think any of us will do in 10. One, let me say that is excellent advice about having an external accountability. So very incredibly wise words. I want to go back and just talk about, you lived in Maui. You lived between DC and Vermont. You take up 4 different very interesting hobbies. Not to mention that you're also in school for, you, I believe you said welding. You are a Twitch streamer. You have a full-time job. I just have one question. What haven't you done?
My wife would tell you I always come up with new things I want to do, and she's been kind of reining me in a little bit. But there's always something new. I think the best thing you can be in your life is always a student, always learning something new. It keeps things interesting. So I never thought I would be in welding school a year ago, but it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think always keep pushing that stuff.
That's awesome.
So Archer mentioned the name Estrella, and it's Archer from chat who likes that name. And so Archer, that name is actually Spanish for star. I thought it was a pretty name, and so I had a female red-tailed hawk that was named Estrella. And so she was a wild caught or trapped hawk who I had for 4 years, I think, and taught her how to hunt, and then just a couple years ago released her back into the wild to go make more bird babies and continue her life. So,
Do you have a falcon that you have now?
so right now I do not. It's been something. So COVID kind of came, and there's falconry. The sport is very highly regulated. And it needs to be because you can't have just anyone going out and taking a bird from the wild and then turning it into a pet or something like that. So falconry is extremely regulated. And when COVID came around, it was time for my paperwork to be renewed. And my experience with falconry was a little bit, I was kind of on my own doing a lot of it. I did have a sponsor. There's a whole process you have to go through. You have to study for a test that has 300 questions on bird anatomy and how to be a falconer and stuff. You have to build a facility that's inspected by Fish and Game to approve it, and then you have to find a sponsor who is a master level falconer who agrees to sponsor you. And so I had all those things, and I did that, but my sponsor and I kind of didn't really hang out that much. And when it came time to renew, I actually could have graduated and been on my own, but I was doing my thing, and it didn't really bother me, and I didn't really care about titles and progressing or anything. I was just being a falconer, and I loved it. So when it came to renew, the whole COVID thing was around. I could never get a hold of him, and so I wasn't able to renew my permit. And then now I've been so busy because the one thing out of all the hobbies that you can have, I don't think time is the best excuse, because I think people do have time for things if they really carve out something in a time in their life. Like for me, it was having a stream schedule, because I never thought I had time. But if you carve out the time, you can find 3 minutes a day or 30 minutes a week to do something. But with the falconry thing, you need to fly your bird, hunt your bird really at least 3 to 4 times a week minimum, and that's a couple hours being out with your bird, because that's a wild animal that you have. It's a bird that flies free, and if you never fly your bird, you really shouldn't, in my opinion, be a falconer. It's different from state to state, or from country to country. In the UK, it's very different. You can actually I think you can just buy like an owl or something if you want to have it. I don't know if it's like highly regulated there as far as like having permits and hunting and the government being involved. I'm not really sure, but it's different than it is here, where really in the United States, you really should be flying your bird and hunting with it and kind of pursuing it. They're not pets here. They're a hunting companion. So I don't currently have a bird.
No, and then that's really good insight. Also, buying an owl is a really good temptation for me just to move to Europe. Not gonna lie, I really actually kind of want an owl for a pet, just a little bit.
Well, if you can have one through falconry, but then you have to fly a bird. So, but barred owl, great horned owls, those are all birds that you can used for falconry, but with them, it's recommended that you take them as a AS, which is a newly hatched bird. And so they recommend that you go up into the nest and actually take it if you're going to have one, just because of the way that the nature of that bird is. And so something that's different from Europe versus the U.S. is that in Europe, you are not allowed to take a bird from a wild and, or I guess the UK, I should say, you're not allowed to take a bird from the wild and then train that to be a hunting bird. In the United States, you are required by law to take your first bird from the wild. And the reason why they do that here is that 80% of these birds never make it past their first year in the wild due to the food scarcity, territories being messed up, disease, all that kind of things. All these challenges that these birds go through, 80% of them are going to die the first year. So if a falconer takes that bird, the chance of that bird dying is much reduced. And, if you go out hunting with the bird, you don't catch anything, you go home and you feed the bird. Out in the wild, the bird misses 2 or 3 times, it gets harder and harder to hunt, and then eventually that bird expires. And so in the U.S., and that's why the sport can still be around with PETA and all those things kind of around these days, is that it's actually good for the bird, because then you release it back into the wild after a few years, and it's a proficient hunter. It can provide for its family. It's gotten all that training with you, and it can go on and continue the species. So it's different from here in the U.S. versus abroad in a lot of places.
Huh. Sorry.
So you mentioned, Emily, that you were talking about, yeah, no, it's okay, about bees. So you were looking at getting into beekeeping. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I've wanted to for a long time. And sorry, my cat is interrupting. Get down, baby. She about took out my mic. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, thanks to Josh Archer 33 in the chat, I got a beehive for my birthday and some books on beekeeping, and I've looked into it in the past and looked at different options. Like there's different styles of beehives. There's like because to me the honey is secondary. I would like more bees and to help the bees continue and survive. And one of the because there's like the flow hive and different hives of that nature, but the traditional beekeeping is really just fine. But yeah, I've been wanting to get into it. So I have literally this box of wood pieces to put together right now. That's how far I am.
Yeah, you should do it on stream at some point. You guys should have a crafting stream and put together the beehive.
What a great idea. Thank you. Oh,
yeah, we do that sometimes here.
What is the expiration date for honey?
Never.
Wait, seriously?
They found honey in Egyptian tombs that was still good. So
yeah,
as long as you don't allow air and moisture to get in, it'll stay good forever. So bees, that's my mom right there, by the way. Hey, Mom. That's
Hi, Mom.
My mom was
Hi.
what the expiration date for honey was. So it's actually quite fascinating. What the bees do is they take the nectar and they collect that, and then they dry that out with their wings to a point that it gets below, like, I'm not sure what the exact number is, but it's like 14% moisture content. And then once they get it below a threshold, it becomes a substance that is anaerobic, or I can't remember what it is, but basically that stuff can't live in it. And as long as it's contained that way, so that moisture doesn't get above that 14%, whatever it is, stuff won't live in it. So, and that's how you make modern, mead or old meads and stuff. There was, I think it was, the people say Vikings were the ones that came up with mead, but probably what happened was that they left out some honey somewhere and water got into it and it rained or whatever it was. And that moisture that was in there fermented that honey. And that's how they came out with mead. And so that was how the first mead was the first alcohol really that we've had. So, and then through that process, people have now refined it, obviously. But the general idea is really just honey that has been brought up to a certain moisture content so that it can support flora and fauna and stuff. And then that starts to have a bunch of bacteria in it, and they very simply, pee, alcohol, and fart CO2, and that's how you come up with your. It's a very simple. It's a very simple way to describe it, and that's how you come out with mead and alcohol. So, yeah.
I
Yeah, they
think that's
convert
going in
those
my.
sugars. Yeah.
I think that is going in our quote book. They pee alcohol and fart CO2.
Yeah. Yeah. As they
um,
consume all those sugars and replicate. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, someone clip that.
I so you were so incredibly knowledgeable about beekeeping and about all of these hobbies, and that's very present. How long did it take you to really get to this point of mastery with these different hobbies?
I don't really know if I would consider it mastery. I'm always learning stuff. I mean, I tried to make this flint striker on my stream last week and I broke it. So I've been doing this for 7 years now, and I made this little flint striker
Mhm.
Okay.
for a friend, and then I very stupidly hit it with a hammer trying to do something, and I snapped it. Broke it. So, there's always something I'm learning about, and one of the great things about Twitch and doing these hobbies on Twitch is that a lot of times you'll meet people through the community who are experts in different things. And so a good example of this is now a true master of the craft would be a gentleman named Dirty Smith, who I I was learning about blacksmithing. I would watch all of his videos, and he has some beautiful work that he does. He's a professional blacksmith. That's his job. And I was streaming, and the Dirty Smith came into the chat and said hello. When I was doing my live stream, I was like, "Are you the Dirty Smith?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." And so now I have, Rory is his name. He'll come in and hang out. But that's the one who's actually knows what they're doing when it comes to blacksmithing, and I can bounce ideas off of them. We have another guy. It's Manchu. Yeah, that's his website there. And we have another guy, Orphe Tunes just put in the link, www.dirtysmith.com.
Yeah.
And we have another guy who, his name is Manchu Warrior, and he's a machinist. And he's also, like, he builds cannons and stuff as part of, like, a Revolutionary War reenactments that he does, I think. And he'll come in the chat and, like, hang out and talk. And I've met so many people who are experts in different things through Twitch, and we hang out and bounce ideas off each other, and that's been really cool. So a lot of my stuff has just been learning on YouTube, watching videos, and then trying it out. I think these days you can pretty much learn anything you need to learn on YouTube in some form or another, at least to get you started enough that you can kind of ponder along on your own. And then, Twitch actually helped me learn a lot more because I've had access to these people now. I mean, I bet if I wanted to go out and spend a day in Rory's shop, he would love to have me over. Same thing with Manchu. I've met all these people from around the world now. There's another guy called The Forge on Twitch, and he is in the Czech Republic. And if I ever go out there, we're gonna hang out and do a forging stream. And he's a classically trained. They do it differently out in Europe. You can actually go to school for like 4 or 6 years or something to be a blacksmith, and the whole first year is just drawing. You never touch a hammer out there. So it's that's another great way of learning and meeting these people is through the Twitch platform. So I kind of learn from research, and then eventually I'll go out and do it. And that's usually when my wife catches me, is when she starts watching me watch like new videos on new stuff I'm watching.
Mm-hmm.
She's figured out now. She's like, okay, no, you can't do that. No buying 3D printers or that kind of stuff. You have enough hobbies. So. But
Okay, so I have the question. Are you ready? Have you ever forged a ring of power?
I haven't done rings. Um, I haven't done much jewelry, but rings. I've seen some people do some rings, and I at some point I'd like to try that. But no, I haven't done any rings of power. So, have you guys been watching that show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Trey is shaking
Not
his
yet.
head. Hi, Kaz. Kaz in the chat is one of our regulars, and we always like to say hello. So yeah, you've been watching that series too?
Yeah. So my wife and I enjoy that. We also watching the House of Dragons.
Yes.
And so she's actually watching the finale right now, because she couldn't wait for me. So she's watching it right now as we do the podcast. Actually,
We have to stop this podcast so that you can go right now. There are priorities.
no, that's fine. Yeah, so she'll get to know, and hopefully she won't spoil it for me by the time I get the chance to watch it. So.
Oh yeah, no, don't let her spoil it.
No.
It's yeah. Well, I'll be very careful and not say anything more.
Wait, have you watched the finale?
Yep.
Okay, I have not seen it yet, but I'm also waiting to watch the. God, I was about to say
You
the
almost said Harry
films.
Potter.
All right. Anyway, we're not going to rehash that this week. So I will wait to watch The Ring of Power until after I have a little bit more context. But it's on my list, and Seth is going to make that happen.
I see you also did Hobbit Door Knockers. That's cool.
So that's what my mom is calling something else. That's this is a project that we did. Everyone teased me about it being a Hobbit door knocker, but this is a one of the taps I did. So this beer here I'm drinking is it's the Beast of Slaughter by Mythic Brewing.
Okay.
And I did a collab with them where I forged 60 bar taps for them. It was my first commercial commission. And this is one of them here. It's a feather, and this is their logo here. And
That's
so everyone
cool.
was teasing me that this was a Hobbit door knocker, they would tell me.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
but it's swing, so it's meant to go onto a tap, and then you can pour your beer with it.
I see.
And I thought I had given out or delivered all 60, and then I found one in my suitcase that I used as a demo piece when I went to Seattle to do a Twitch thing. And so I'm very happy that I have one that I can use on my own now. But that's
Yeah.
the Hobbit door knocker.
You should have one of your own.
So cool. What is probably your favorite thing that you've ever blacksmithed?
It'd probably be something around tools. I like making tools. And I have a couple things I can show you, some things that we've made. Some of it on stream. I have one here that we made on stream, which I'll show you. This is a boar spear. So this was fun to make. I made this out of a lawnmower blade.
And what did you call it? A spear?
A boar spear.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So this was made from a lawnmower. That's why it has that circle in it, because that's the nut where
Sure.
it attaches to the lawnmower. And so we forged this into a boar spear. So that was fun to do on Twitch. And let's see what else we have. I've made some of my own hammers. So I didn't make this on Twitch. I made this at a friend's forge. But this is the hammer that I use for blacksmithing.
And you made it.
And so this is, yeah, we made this. And so this one was actually from a Harbor Freight hammer that I got for $7. And then we heated it up and we reforged it into a blacksmith style hammer that has a flat face and then also a round face, which is important for doing certain things. And so this hammer, if you were to forge it all, would probably be like a $200 or $250 hammer. And, I got it for $7 plus the labor to do it. And then I have one I made from scratch. Not sure where that one is.
It's like a Harbor Freight hack.
Yeah.
Like how to
It's,
take a Harbor Freight hammer and turn it into a blacksmithing hammer.
There are some good tools at Harbor Freight. I actually have a bandsaw from them, and that's one of the good tools. There's a few secret tools you can get that are actually really good,
Hmm.
but it's one of those things you kind of have to know, and it's hit or miss for a lot of their stuff. So this is an axe blank that we made,
Okay.
Oh, wow.
and this is, you put the X half through here, and this is, I think, either 4140, which is a medium carbon steel, and then I forge welded a high carbon bit from a spring from a truck. And so this is like a
Wow.
high carbon steel, which you have the edge to hold, for um, striking and all that, but then you have a mild steel or a medium carbon steel body, so you can have some durability and strength to it. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, for an axe. Um,
Oh,
so, and you
It,
can kind of see. I don't know if you guys can see that line there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that kind of that forge line there is where we forge welded in the bit.
that's
So,
amazing.
so for our audience at home, the axe blank that he was holding up, there's this really prominent line running from the merging of the two metals between it. Has this nice curved top to it, and it's uh, merged the two different metals together. But it's really seamless, though. Like the coloration between it is all like super seamless.
Yeah, and I could grind that down and have it kind of go away too if I wanted to. But I kind of like the rustic look of knowing that, hey, this is like a forged welded piece.
Oh,
So
it's got a cool
Yeah.
story. Josh said it asked sort of a Sanmai style axe head.
yeah, so sanmai is a traditional Japanese way of making blades, and it's from taking mild or different steels and then kind of combining them in three layers. San is Japanese for three. So sanmai is, you usually have a core steel in the middle, and then you have a jacket on the outside of these other steels, which is like a mild steel or a carbon. You can do different things. You can be an artistic kind of look to it, or you can make it so that it actually serves a purpose. So one of the problems with high carbon blades is that they are fragile. So if you think about, if you take a knife and you bend it over in a vise or something, it might snap because it's hard steel, which is what you want. You have a hard steel because it retains the edge that you have and is easier to cut things with. Well, the Japanese have figured out that if you put a mild steel jacket on that, that it gets the flexibility of the mild steel, but the edge that sticks out of the bottom is still the high carbon steel. So the sanmai, when you use it, can actually give you some different properties of the knife of having the hard edge, but still having the soft and flexible body. And it's actually how they used to make a lot of their katanas way back in the day. Um, they didn't have access to good high quality steel, so they had to figure out a way to use the steel that they had in the best way possible. So they would take their iron, and they would test different parts of it and find which ones had higher carbon and which ones were lower carbon, and then they would stack their katanas when they forged them out in such a way that the higher carbon stuff was towards the edge, and the mild carbon or the lower carbon stuff was the mild steel was along the spine, and that gave them a superior, as some would say, product, because then you had the hard edge, which would cut with, but then it had a flexible spine. And they actually came across that because they had to figure out a way to use, how do you have this much quality steel, but then stretch it over this large distance to have a knife blade or a sword blade, and that's how the katanas came around. And so Western steels or mono steels, they had a higher quality steel, so the whole thing was a hard, sword that was tempered a certain way, but they had access to much better steel, so they didn't have to come up with that technique to have the flexibility like the katana did. And this is a knife that I made out of a farrier's rasp. Let's see if I can get some light on it. And so a farrier's rasp is something that the farriers use to doctor horse hooves. And
Oh, yeah.
I turned that into a knife and twisted the handle around. So for those of you at home, it looks like a file, but then I've twisted the file handle around so that it looks like well, it's a round handle. So
It makes it
it's something
usable. Yeah.
yeah, it's something you can do as a blacksmith. A lot of the people who are bladesmiths who do stock removal, which is nothing wrong with stock removal, they take a knife blank and then they grind it down into shape. Well, if you're a blacksmith, it kind of opens up your methods and processes into a way to kind of incorporate things. You can't grind down from a blank something like this to incorporate a handle. You have to forge that. There's a little bit, if you're a blacksmith as well as a bladesmith, then you can kind of, or I should say, if you're a blacksmith bladesmith, instead of just a stock removal guy, you can be a little bit more organic with your developments and creations when you're making things.
Right. I like that. The sky's kind of the limit to some degree on that.
Okay. So this, while you were talking, it just kind of occurred to me that how does one go from blacksmithing to beekeeping? And I don't know. That was that. How does one go from blacksmithing to beekeeping?
So I guess I've always, since I was a kid, been interested in like the medieval stuff and times and stuff. So blacksmithing I always thought it was cool. And of course, like every person, I always wanted to make a sword, and that was always an interest of mine. I just never had time for it, or as I tell myself that I could have done it if I really decided I wanted to do it. But and then with the mead making and brewing alcohol, that kind of comes in along with the whole medieval thing, like the knights and the kings and stuff, that they would drink mead. And so it's more of interested in kind of like the old medieval time period in a way. I'm not a historian. I don't study a lot of that kind of stuff, but I loved, knights and all that growing up and watching all those movies as a kid. Robin Hood with Kevin Costner, I think it was, back in the day, was one of my favorite movies growing up.
Yep.
Also Hook with Robin Williams, the whole pirates and all that kind of stuff. Like anything from that time period. Rufio. You guys might know some of that. But I loved all that kind of stuff. So, pirates and treasure and, swords and blacksmithing and, knights and shining armor and feasts and cooking and, food and all that kind of stuff. And alcohol, it's just like I wanted to learn how to make my own alcohol. And to do that, that's how I became a beekeeper. I was like, well, I want to make mead, but to make mead, I need honey. And then I spent a whole bunch of money becoming a beekeeper, and I still haven't got a lot of honey, but, I'm now a beekeeper. So, and I've gotten a little bit here and there to make some mead, but, for you guys out there, if you're getting into beekeeping because you want to make mead, probably you're better off just buying the honey, because, you'll be a lot faster and you'll have the honey. And,
I guess that
but it's
makes
fun.
sense.
Right. It's a lot of fun, for sure. I'm also allergic to bees.
Oh.
What?
And, but I've been fascinated by them since I was a kid. But I always have Benadryl with me and stuff when I get stung. And fortunately, the place where I keep my bees is right next to a hospital. So if I have to go to the hospital, it's like right there.
Right there. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you get stung a lot?
So I do, because as you get better at this, Emily, and you start becoming a beekeeper, eventually you're not going to wear a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
And it's actually much better not to wear a bunch of stuff.
That's what I hear.
For me, because I'm allergic to bees, I wear all the stuff. Because when I get stung, if I have stuff on, it's not as serious, because for whatever reason, when I'm wearing gloves and I get stung in the hand, if I can kind of get the stinger out or they go through the glove, usually it's not that bad. But if I don't have any gear on and I get stung, then my whole hand swells up. like a inflated glove balloon, and it's annoying. Now I have to wear all the gear, and because I have all the gear on, I'm not as dexterous in the hive, and so eventually sometimes I smush a couple of bees and they get upset, and so I pretty much always get stung, just about every time when I'm beekeeping.
Yikes.
So I just have a lot of Benadryl in my truck.
So if you get stung enough times, do you turn into like a superhero like Spider-Man?
I don't particularly know. But if I get swarmed, then I go into shock and potentially die. So I just don't get swarmed.
Yeah,
right. I've never been swarmed.
The opposite effect, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about the spider exhibit at the Smithsonian.
Wait, what?
Well, his mom just said. She said, you have always been into critters of all kinds. You love the spider exhibit at the Smithsonian.
Yeah, so I just always loved zoos and stuff, and so we would go to the Smithsonian, I guess, and they have some different exhibits on bugs and stuff, and so I can't remember if that was a live exhibit or not, but I'm just fascinated by spiders and snakes, and I'm kind of the snake guy in the neighborhood. If there's there's a snake in someone's car, they'll come and get me, and I'll go and grab the snake out and put it somewhere else. And spiders in the house, I'll catch them, in my hands and just bring them outside. It's usually fine because there aren't very many. I know the dangerous spiders that we have here, and I've never seen them. I have seen some bad snakes. I will kill bad snakes just because I don't have the equipment to safely remove a coral snake, which is deadly.
Yeah.
Especially with dogs and stuff. So if I see those, I will dispatch of them, but any other snake I just pick up and move it somewhere.
Sure. Which reminds me, I used to live in South Carolina, and I had a neighbor with a snake that was on their deck, and it had it was trying to get to a nest that was up near the roof, and I think to get the eggs, but they were terrified of the snake and they didn't know what to do, and I was like, well, I can tell it's not a venomous snake, so I'll grab it, because they were going to kill it, and I didn't want them to kill it because it wasn't really a danger. So I took a blanket and grabbed it and put it into like those like 30-gallon bins with the plastic lids. I store fabric in those. So I just grabbed an empty one and threw the blanket with the snake in it in the bin. And it was getting dark out. And I was like, I'm just going to drive it out somewhere in the country and drop it off. At least it's not in the neighborhood. And it won't die.
How far did you drive from your house? For that?
Close to a mile.
Wow, okay.
Well, I'm trying to think, because the nearest place where I felt like it would be safe, because I lived in an apartment complex. It was like townhouses. So I wanted to make sure I was not near more people who could kill it. So it was like down the road. Anyway, but I opened the lid and I took the blanket, and there was no snake in that bin.
Oh no.
And I don't think it was in my car, because I searched. I looked everywhere for that snake. And the only thing I could think of is somehow, because it was getting dark, it had gotten out of my grasp as I was putting it in the bin and somehow slithered away without anyone there seeing. I have no idea. But I never found the snake. So anyway, sorry, that was my snake story.
That was just your first attempt at magic.
Right. It was just, I can make a snake disappear. Right. Oh, one question was, what is in my aquarium behind you? Well, once upon a time there were fish, but I've been growing. That's basil right there. And that's also basil in that little cup there. And that's like a hydroponic seed starter thing. So I grew my garden this year because I moved to Minnesota, which is where I'm at now. And I'm not used to the shorter growing season. So I still wanted to start all my plants early indoors. So my entire garden was started here.
Cool.
Tomatoes and peppers and all kinds of things. So that's what I use it for. Because I have a cat that will eat it all if I don't keep it contained and out of her reach. So
okay.
also the light is helpful. So That's what it is.
Whenever she was first getting started with that, I did poke fun a little bit because all I saw were like these yogurt and sour cream cups in the background. And I was like, "Are you growing sour cream plants?"
Yep.
Like,
Because I reuse containers to grow things. Yeah, that's like a Dixie cup that happens to be green. Yeah, send me all of your empty plastic containers. I will use them to grow plants.
So John, what? How do I ask this? Um, if there is one material that you could blacksmith, and it could be something that can be blacksmithed or
Mithril.
cannot. Mithril?
Yeah, I mean,
Why?
where it has to be something real, or does it have to be like?
Such a good
No,
answer.
it could be anything, and I'm so glad you said mithril.
Such a good
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought. I mean, I play a lot of I used to play a lot of D&D and stuff. So I always loved. Yeah, the Elven chain from like way back in the day. That's always been in D&D as far as I can remember. So I started playing advanced. I think it was advanced D&D. Way back in the day, and then we played D&D second edition a little bit, and then I got big into 3.5 in college, and then I've tried to play some, I think 5 recently with some friends. But yeah, so it'd be mithril. You know, I think that one's really cool because it's like super strong but really lightweight, and you know, and then it's also in the new. They talk about a lot in the new Lord of the Rings show.
Yep.
So that kind of brought it to mind, but.
But what would you make?
Oh.
Probably a hammer. Just the idea of having a lightweight, super strong hammer. Well, I guess if it's lightweight, it might not work as well. So, because it helps to have weight when you're hammering something. So I guess maybe not a hammer.
You could do like one of those. What is it? You make a hammer, but then you have a chain on it, so you could like whip it around almost like a mace, and then like throw it at people, and then like bring it back to you.
Yeah, like a kind of like a morning star or something.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a blade, some kind of a blade though, I think would be really cool. I like chainmail too. I mean, I would just make a whole bunch of stuff out of it. I don't have any of the pieces here, but for a little while I was going to actually get to making armor so something I did for a little while was I joined a medieval combat group. And this was a fully armored, with live weapons like steel, full contact, sport. And I got into doing that for maybe a couple months, but that was just before I started like getting a job, and almost like a real job. I say a real job, but I used to do photography work, and the schedule was very flexible. So I did real estate photography a few months ago, and I was laid off, and was still putting myself through welding school, and now I actually got a job as an iron worker working for a company that's doing work for the new Universal Studios park that's coming in. And so now I'm an iron worker and up on big steel and welding up there, which is really fun. But now I've gone from having more free time to I get up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I go to school at 7 a.m. until 12, and then I drive to my job. I'm at my job from 1 to 5. And so I do that. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I work at my job from 6 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. And then I have Sunday as my one day off. So the medieval fighting thing, unfortunately, I can't physically be there for practice. So that has been a hobby of mine that I unfortunately cannot do. But we were working on smithing armor. That was the direction we were going into.
Very
that was gonna
cool.
be something we did on stream, but unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. So, and the job pays well, which is nice compared to my old photography job.
So
Emily, I know you were into photography. I think you.
Yeah, I've
mentioned
done
you
real
were
estate
about
photography too. At some point, I don't anymore.
want to see if I can find. I have some pictures um, in the Discord. So any of you guys, if you happen to be uh, listening at home, I do have a Discord, and if you look up Burrows Forge, I think on Twitch you can find a link to my Discord there. So if you want to go back and see any of these photos, or see other things or post your own stuff, we have a Discord that's open to everyone,
Cool.
where anyone can post their arts and crafts and hobbies and things. But I did want to show you two pictures, if that's okay. I know it's
Yeah, do it.
not quite a podcast friendly thing, but if you guys want to see, there is a way for you guys to see it in a little bit. So let me find it here.
It's Creative Forge.
Yeah, Creative Forge is
Okay.
the name of it in Discord. Yeah. And I didn't want to call it Burrows Forge because I wanted it to be something that everybody can participate in. I have it not be just about me, so everyone kind of posts their own stuff in there.
That's cool.
So here's, I'm getting the photos up here now. Let's see. So I have some from my trip to. I went on a cruise with my wife. I think it was our honeymoon, and we went to the Louvre out in Paris, and then
Yeah.
also we were in Budapest, and we went to these ruin bars, which are these old blown out houses from like World War II. And then they've turned them into their actual physical ruins that they've turned into bars. And so they're filled with graffiti and like half blown out walls and stuff. And but it's like a nightclub. And so I got some different stuff there. So let me switch over so you guys can see here, and then
Whoops.
I'll pull up the.
Infinity.
Yeah, that's good. Oops, actually, hold on a second. Sorry, guys. I'm just gonna window capture, and then this, and then I think it's
I'm going to do that.
no, not that one. Oh no.
So while you're
Let's
doing
talk
that.
about it. Here's one.
Oh, okay.
So this is a photo here. Can you guys see that one?
Yeah.
So this is a picture of a statue that I took in the Louvre, which is from Rome, and I just really like the lighting and stuff that they had there.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I have another one that's this guy. This is at the Ruin Pub, kind of just sitting there smoking I think it was a vape or a hookah. It was a hookah. And I have one more of these people. Kind of just chatting.
Kind of a cultural. That wall behind them is pretty cool. Lots of history there.
Graffiti and stuff. Yeah, but you can kind of see how it's not really ever been repaired, and it's kind of half blown out and stuff. So
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's just some photography stuff, and so that actually has some of the photography gear allowed me to kind of get into using some of this stuff for the stream. But a lot of people think they have to have a lot of fancy equipment to do streaming, and it's not really something that you have to have. The biggest thing that you need for streaming is you can just get a webcam, but then I would invest in a good mic, because audio quality is probably the most important, and then like kind of the video quality comes after that, and then maybe get a decent light. But people think they have to get all these things to be a successful streamer, and they kind of get lost in trying to get stuff set up, and a year passes by and they still haven't streamed, but fortunately I had some gear, so I had a vision for how I wanted this particular stream to come up, where they could see the anvil, and they have a couple different views of the anvil that they can look at. And I also have a shoulder cam that I can walk around the studio with and kind of show them certain things, and do tours. If people ask questions, we can go to the bandsaw if I need to cut something, and still have that on camera. But I have a friend who's Atomic Stacy on Twitch, and she does knitting, and she started knitting with just a webcam that she borrowed from me, and an old microphone from her husband that used to do some streaming stuff with it. And now she's got the community to buy her a nice microphone and a nice camera, and she has a dual camera setup now, and she does knitting on stream. She's met tons of people through that, and they're actually having a meetup in Chicago. They're calling it Atomic Con. A bunch of knitters from the community that all knit and kind of hang out online. They're all going to meet up in for a few days in Chicago, which I think is
Wow.
pretty cool. So
That's some amazing growth. I really like stories like that where
yeah, it's not a huge channel. I mean, she streams to maybe like 20 or 30 people. I'm not really sure where she's at now since my schedule changed. But you'll kind of find people as you go, and there's 10 people that show up at this thing. Just the fact that you have that opportunity to kind of meet and interact with these people, and they'll do community events and stuff. And I know I've been talking a lot, but I do have one little tidbit about streaming that I would like to share. I think it's pretty important. And I only bring this up because I just had a friend of mine who was in the stream on my last stream, and he's a streamer and he plays video games on Twitch. And he was just telling me he's getting into the situation now where he's going to stop streaming because he doesn't think he has the channel that people are interested in that want to see that content on Twitch. So he doesn't think he's excitable enough, or his content of playing video games, he's not good enough at the game or whatever. And so he's kind of getting frustrated. He's going to stop streaming. And if you instead stream for yourself, you kind of take care of any kind of problem with viewership. And there's always this thing that people want to stream. They're like, oh, what if no one watches me? Or what if no one ever comes in and wants to check it out? Or what if no one's in there talking to me? Well, if you stream for yourself and something like learning something like knitting, or I want to learn how to play guitar, or I want to learn how to cross stitch or paint or whatever it is, if that is what you're investing in, and you're investing in yourself, then the numbers and the community and all that kind of stuff takes a back seat. And then you don't have to worry about that because you're not out there playing a game to try to make money or whatever it is. You're investing in yourself and learning a craft and learning to do something. And then whether someone shows up or not, you're getting benefit out of that. And it takes all the stress of the numbers and all that stuff out. And I think that's a huge barrier to people, is they're worrying about, what if I don't have anybody, or what if I don't make any money? Or, well, you're not doing it to make money. You're doing it because you want to get better at this thing. And then what happens, surprisingly, is that if you're focused on getting better at this thing, but being open to a community and just talking about stuff as you do it, you still have to do some basic things as a streamer, but that key will come naturally instead of you trying to focus on building this or trying to do all this stuff, and that was something I don't think I'll ever be, have 100 people on my channel. I usually float somewhere between like 12 and 25. But there's been so many opportunities I've got just because I focus on what we do, the crafting and stuff. I've been with Twitch now for 2 events. The last one, they flew me out to Seattle for a day, and I did an event with them on a show with this really cool lady named Gina, who does this like really cool crafting show that happens I think on Tuesdays on the Prime Gaming channel. And we made some really cool stuff and chatted and stuff. But all these things came out of the stream just from me trying to learn how to be a better blacksmith or beekeeper or whatever it is, And I've still never had, 400 people, 10,000 people, whatever it is watching me. But, those opportunities just kind of come up organically, and whatever happens, I'm still investing in myself and getting better at something. And so I never lose. I'm never wasting my time.
Right.
And that's really something I think that we've highlighted on our channel, is that as long as you're loving what you're doing, like, that's what matters. Bring the quality of the content that you're doing, everything else will follow. And as long as you are putting forth what you want to put forward as your art, that's what matters. And the numbers, the people, having a following, sure, it's nice, but what matters more? The fact that you hand sewed, sorry, Emily, I'm going to use you. You hand sewed this garment with all of these intricate designs, or you took 80 hours to blacksmith this very intricate spear and halberd, and put all of your time and effort into making it look the way that you wanted it to do, versus, oh my God, did I have 10 people in my stream tonight? that part doesn't matter. It's the fact that you took time to create this incredible piece of art. So, so I think that's incredibly wise words for this generation. So thank you, John.
Yeah, it's 100% true, and you always, I mean, I do sometimes get caught up about the numbers thing because it's hard not to,
Mhm.
but I always go back to, am I spending my time well? And for I had to start doing it, but for me to struggle at blacksmithing for 5 years and just never really do it, and then stream it on Twitch and become of actual blacksmith was such
Mhm.
a, a an opportunity for me that I wouldn't have had, And so I think there's really anybody can get better at anything they want to do on Twitch if they just start streaming and put the time in, you know.
Absolutely.
Because if you put time in, you're gonna get better at something. So
Yeah. And that's something that Joe Capone was living proof of, because when he first started Twitch streaming was what, a couple years ago, and he was doing retro gaming, playing old oh, I can't think of it. What's the football game that is on
Madden or something.
uh Tecmo Bowl. It
Oh
was
wow.
Tecmo Bowl. And I just couldn't get it through my head that anybody would ever want to watch him sit and play Tecmo Bowl over and over and over and over again 4 nights a week for hours on end. And I would join in on the, to give him another viewer, and I would heckle him in the chat a little bit just to kind of support him. But like, that's not my thing. And I was really surprised at the number of people that came out. And he actually, it wasn't so much that there were a ton of people that were into watching him play the game, but it was the community he built out of that. And we saw evidence of that at the memorial for him when so many people showed up that we didn't really know because they were connected with him through his channel. And that blew my mind that he had created that community and connected with people in a real way. Something that I mean, we've seen that here too. We're a lot newer at it, but your mom said, I was thrilled to see how the streaming community is so connected and supportive of each other. It's a positive place to hang. Yeah.
Because I mean, let's also point that out. Your mom is here. Like that
Yeah.
is that is
Yes.
such an
Yeah.
incredible source of positivity. Like, hi,
Uh,
mom. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Hi,
It's
Mom.
funny. My mom and I haven't been that close over the last, gosh, probably 20 years now. But she is always in my streams now. She's a little bit, she's very eccentric, and she's a little bit of a hermit. She doesn't really get out of the house at all. She doesn't really have a lot of. I don't think she has any friends. Mom, sorry, call you out, but she doesn't have a social outlet.
We will be your
And
friends.
but it's incredible because now she has tons of friends on Twitch,
Oh,
and she
good.
comes into the channel and people say hi, and there's all these people that are excited to see her, and she has people to talk with now and hang out with, and it's been this really, I would have never expected in the you know you know, I would never expected to have like my mom be a huge part of my community with all these friends, and like, being a social butterfly with everybody. And she hangs out and chats with everybody. And the first time I got her on, she said it took me 2 hours to get her set up on Twitch, to like download the app and like how to type in the name and find someone
Yeah.
and follow. And I was like, well, this is where the chat bar is if you want to chat. She's like, oh, I don't want to chat with anybody. I don't want to talk with anybody. I was like, okay. And then the next stream, she started chatting with everybody and talking and stuff. And now it's been a lot of fun. And my mom and I are closer now than we've been in 20 years. It's just crazy. So we actually start talking, a lot more on the phone and stuff, and about the streams, and she loves it.
That's so great.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to say, John, is she did say two things. One, I'm a Sanskrit, and two, careful, John, I'll share your chart.
Yeah, so my mom's she's a Sanskrit Jyotishi, and she studied a lot of this stuff when I was very young, and so it's like part of looking at like stars and calendars and planets. It's not
Mhm.
astrology, but it's something kind of similar to that in a way, a very basic way of looking at it. But so her first question when I was born was not whether I was a boy or a girl, it was what time it was. She had all the doctors synchronize her watches and stuff, and she had my birth down to a second so that she could then pull my chart. And it's all about like, you have 12 houses and all the planets are different parts and stuff, and it's supposed to be about your life. And so she's very much into that, and the tarot cards and all of that. So if you can think of like a high class gypsy, eccentric hermit, that's my mother. Like all the stories you see of like, that's my mom, pretty much. So, but she's very high class and she likes, nice clothes and nice jewelry and nice, nice things and stuff. But she's a gypsy hermit. It's she's a lot of fun. 6,000 years old. Vedic medicine. She has the fat fingers when she types. So
Vedic medicine. No, okay. Not that she's 6,000 years old, but the medicine is.
yeah, yeah. So I'm
Or
sure
that's
I'll hear about this when I talk to her on the phone. Hard time with this, but-
Or I mean, it could just be her secret. She could just say, "Oh no, no, I'm secretly 10,000 years old, and I've just been doing this, and I have amassed immortal power." I don't know. I don't know
Just
where I was going with that.
It's exactly like John being a superhero because he's been stung by so many bees.
Yes,
He
yeah,
just keeps
absolutely.
it under wraps. I mean, because you have to, right? In this day and age, you can't just be spouting off that you're a superhero. People don't buy that.
Very
No,
true.
he just keeps it honeycombed up in his hair.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, I'm terrible with puns, but I'm trying. Um, John, is there is there anyone alive or dead that you would like to make something for?
Hmm.
Mithril or otherwise.
Yeah. So the challenge is I don't know if my skill level is like, I guess I would I guess what I would like to do is make something with a blacksmith from you know 1,000 years ago, because
Ooh.
I think that there's so much in the craft that's been lost
Mhm.
that we'll never get back. Like they had ways of making. There's a lot of people who study armor from the Roman times, and they were able to do stuff then that we still haven't quite figured out how they did it with the technology that they had. Um, so I mean, I don't know because I don't know if I have um, the skills to make a really fine blade to give to somebody, but I would love to make something with them. Just spend a day in a shop with an old blacksmith, excuse me, and see the techniques they use to make the things they did.
Yeah, cool.
That's probably what I like to do. Yeah.
That's a good answer. What what do you feel is one of the most fulfilling things about what you do? Whether it be falconry or beekeeping or, any of those things. What is one of the most fulfilling things?
I mean, it was probably falconry. Having a connection with this wild animal, and working with it. It's pretty amazing to think that you can take this animal and then teach it to cooperate with you and learn how to work with it. In the first 2 weeks, the bird wants to have nothing to do with you at all. Like it just like it will tear off your face if you let it. Like it just hates you. Um, and then you have to go through the process of manning the bird, and it takes about 2 weeks or so, up to a month. And then at that point, you have a relationship with the bird, and they'll come to you for food and things. And so that whole process was just so cool. I mean, just at that point, I've only seen them up in the trees and maybe gone to a zoo and seen a hawk or read books about that. But to be able to call a bird and have the bird come and land on your fist was just the coolest thing ever. Um, so I think that was definitely rewarding. I always wanted my dream job, I would say, was to be a zoologist. Until I learned how much science and stuff is involved in that. Like, I just want to work with animals. I think that would be cool, but there's just typically not a lot of money in that.
Mm.
A lot of it's like volunteer based or something, and I've done that. I've volunteered at the Avian Reconditioning Center here in Florida and worked with birds of prey when I was deciding if I wanted to be into falconry. I did that, and it's a lot of work, and it's fun, and you get something for it, but to have it be a job, I think is very difficult if you want to have any kind of gainful employment. So. And I wasn't cut out to be a vet. Science is something I'm interested in, but asked me to study equations and formulas and stuff. It's just difficult for me. So, falconry was like my window into my childhood dream of working with animals. So.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt about biology. Like, I was great at chemistry, and I understood the science, like the math portion of it. But then we got into the biological systems and like ecosystems of stuff, and my brain just went just dead, absolutely dead.
Yeah, it's interesting how our brains work in different ways. Some people can do some things well, and then other people can do other things well, and some people can't do things at all. I always think that's interesting how our how we're so different and what our talents are, and what we pick up and learn quickly or not or whatever. So,
Right. There's a lot of people that, and you've probably experienced this too, they say, which is something I don't always like to hear, but I'll explain. I could never do that. Because they actually think in their mind, like, they don't have whatever it takes to go take a hammer and hit metal that's hot and, create something with that. And, that's just too far for their brain to, they don't think they could achieve that. I've had the same thing with sewing or photography. I could never do that. I don't understand how cameras work. I don't understand my own sewing machine, whatever. And I'm like, I mean, if I can do it, I feel like if I can do it, anybody can, because I figured it out on my own. I never took a sewing class or a photography class. I just learned it, YouTube and other things, and my grandma. And so I wonder, do you have that? Do you have people say that to you? I could never do that.
I mean, I've had people tell me I can't do things. It's more not been like, of course, people say I can never do that, but my entire life, I've had people tell me that so when my family got divorced, I had a stepmother that I didn't get along with very well, and this is kind of some private information, but I'll share it because I think it's important in the context of this. But she told me I was never going to graduate high school. She told me that if I drove the truck, I was going to crash it. So I was never going to have a job, that I never, basically amount to be anything in my life. And when I was growing up, I was a rebellion. I was in all remedial classes at school, like all the special education classes. I refused to read and write. When my summers were spent trying to catch up on schoolwork because I didn't do it. And so my entire life was people telling me I was never going to be anything. My mother was always insistent that it was just kind of my ADHD. And, I just didn't really, I would find things that I was interested in, and I would grasp onto them, and I'd spend all this time on this stuff. In fifth grade, I spent hours and hours and hours drawing out a river system with how the current would flow through this creek and river. But they couldn't get me to sit down for 3 minutes to do a word exercise on writing or something, So everyone just assumed that I was especially educatedly challenged or whatever. But I just didn't have the drive for the interest in that. And so that self-discipline was something I had to learn over time. But my entire life, people have been telling me I can't do things. And I think you can't do anything, but you can do almost anything if you put your mind to it and really put the time into it. And the only person that's stopping that from happening is you. And if there are people in your life that are stopping you from doing things like that are constructive, then you need to remove those people from your life and surround yourself with better people, because your environment is very heavily influenced by the people that you have in your life. And if you have a lot of negative people who are constantly trying to hold you back and kind of drag you down, um, you're not gonna be able to flourish in that environment. So you need to get yourself around some people that are encouraging and want to see you succeed, and then you need to focus on yourself, and you can get to wherever you need to be. And as I mentioned, I've had people tell me my entire life that I was going to amount to nothing, and I couldn't be a blacksmith. I've heard that, I can't do this, I can't do that, and that's up to you. The only person that's holding you back is you.
Yep. Absolutely. I want to address a comment I saw. Sewing is difficult. Put a zipper in the back of a dress. Yes, zippers are difficult. And the way I approached that, I don't know if this is helpful to anyone, but the way I approached that was, I'm going to go and find all of the tips and tricks that are out there on YouTube and everywhere else, and I'm going to be a master at putting a zipper in a dress so that it is never going to be difficult for me again. I used to approach work that way. There were a few things at work that I absolutely hated doing. I felt like I wasn't good at it. It was like this insurmountable challenge that was this unattainable mountain. And I went, okay, I'm going to master that mountain so that it's not difficult anymore. And it's hard. That's a lot of like self-discipline and a lot of kick yourself in the butt to figure out how that's going to work for you. But that's why I can put a zipper in the back of a dress.
I deal with that a lot on my job right now. I've almost quit many times. So I walked on this job to be an iron worker, and you think you're okay with heights. You're like, yeah, I can do that. And then when you're 100 feet up in the air and you're walking across a beam that's 4 inches wide, you find out very quickly that,
Yikes.
heights are something different. You can think as much as you want that you can deal with something until you're faced with it. And I've had to be on these buildings, and you wear a harness that weighs like 70 pounds with your stuff in it, and you're carrying a bolt bag which weighs 50, and then you have to balance all this stuff, and you have to get across it, and then put bolts into the connections on the steel. And that was tough because like your mind, like that was probably one of the more difficult things I've ever done, because like the fear that comes in your mind from something like that is hard to get over. Like you can tell yourself it's fine, I'm on a harness, if I fall I'm not going to die because I'm on with harness and stuff, but like there's just some kind of thing in your brain that just messes with you. And to continually force myself to keep doing it, and it has gotten easier the more I've done it, but that was getting over that and forcing myself to be there. And it's become a personal challenge for me to get comfortable on the steel like that when I have to go up on and walk the beams, to force myself to get used to it, because it'll be a skill set for down on the road. I can always go back to iron work, and it pays typically pretty well. So
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thinks about how you have all of this heavy gear and other things on top of just your own self out there. Plus, there are other elements that can be factors, right? Like a windy day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the wind can take you out. You could just slip on a slippery beam, and that's that. You could try to be doing something with a tool and drop something and try to catch it. Now you're off balance. And I'll climb trees. I'll climb on anything on the ground. I'll jump over stuff. But it's different when you're 100 feet in the air. Like everything changes. It's just it's hard to describe until you actually do it. And I'll be in a basket. Like we've had some beams that we had to adjust, and I'm in a man basket, and we'll bring that up, and I'm fine in that. I can sit all day in this thing. It's not the heights, so much that worries me. It's like for some reason walking across that narrow beam and falling is just something that messes with my head.
Sure.
But
so far, we've talked about so many things that I'm fearful of on this channel. In the last hour, we've talked about spiders. We've talked about heights. We have yet to talk about my irrational fear of something I'm not going to mention,
Oh.
because I don't want that to be used against me.
Hmm.
Emily, don't stop.
We're doing a lot of sharing here.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean,
Um,
about conquering our fears.
yeah, this is one of those things that I still haven't conquered, and it's just irrational to the point of, if anyone ever pranks me with this, I will punch them in the face. Like
Oh,
it
wow.
is, it is that bad.
Okay. I don't know what it could be because I feel like I know you pretty well and I would know what this was. Do I know it?
I think you do, but I just don't talk about it a lot because, again, I don't want to be pranked with it.
No, I hear that loud and clear. I'm not going to prank you
Uh-huh.
with it.
Thank
Well,
you.
I know it's not hurricanes because you still live where you live.
No, porcelain dolls.
Oh,
Like,
Is that
I
really?
really, yeah, I
Okay.
really cannot stand to be in the same room as, look at, or just have any kind of general proximity to porcelain dolls.
those can be
Can't
creepy.
stand it. I mean, I've had nightmares, and my mom was so enthusiastic because her mom brought out these baby dolls that she had when she was a kid. One was like an actual like baby doll. The other one was my height at 9 years old. Like that thing was creep. Okay. Anyway,
So
so
you're
Sorry, we
saying
don't
the
want you to.
perfect housewarming gift for you is
not that.
We don't
Um,
want you to have nightmares tonight just from talking about it.
Yeah. So anyway, so that is my irrational fear. So heights, now dolls, and spiders. But more, I
Do,
think the moral of the story is that um, I think what you're saying is true, and to conquer your fears, you have to find a way to face them, and it's about finding not a coping mechanism, but finding out what works best for you to help you be brave in that moment, because you can still be brave while being afraid of something. Um, so
yes.
I think what the overall message is very true. I just wanted to just say I don't like spiders. Um, Emily, you were gonna say something?
I was going to ask if it had to be a porcelain doll. I'm sorry. We don't have to go back to that. Let's not. I don't really have any fears, but I have overcome many.
Hmm?
I have like little momentary things, but I'm not afraid of spiders or any animals. I have a healthy respect for them though, so like I'm not gonna go get involved with a grizzly bear on purpose. So I mean, you get it.
Yeah.
We had a
So
black. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh.
We had a black
Well, I was
widow
just-
infestation at the store I used to work at,
No,
and
no. Yeah.
it was, I mean, hundreds of black widows. There might have been more, but like I only saw hundreds, and that was at the time, because of how long it would take an exterminator come out. I had to deal with it myself, and that cured me of all spider fears.
See, I don't even know if I would want to deal with that. I mean, just spray them all until they're dead. I mean,
Pretty much.
I'll pick them up and take them out. But once something's like venomous, like all bets are off. You know, if I can avoid it, I'll avoid it. But if I, I'll see, spiders out there. We have banana spiders and stuff. You can just walk around them. If I see, a black widow or something out hiking, I'll just walk around it. I'll probably look at it, take a picture of it or whatever, and then keep going. But I can't imagine trying to get rid of it in a station at a store. Mm-mm. No.
I mean, it was like
Because
they
then
were
you always wonder if did you get all of them?
right, and it was a clothing store, so you can't just have people trying on clothes that are infested with black widows.
Oh man, yeah, no.
I'm pretty sure you were working there at the same time, Trey.
You just to tell them about it.
Well, Trey and I used to work together.
Mm-hmm.
It was when Riley was working there. So if you were working at the same time as Riley, it probably was then.
See, okay, this is one of the things that I think maybe failed to mention to me during my tenure at said location.
That's how Trey and I met. We met because we both worked for the same clothing store company.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a hot topic?
Yes, it was definitely Hot Topic.
Okay, because I was just saying, because I used to work at a hot topic.
That would have been way more fun.
Yeah.
No, ours was the most prominent men's store retailer in America.
Oh, the suit store,
Mm-hmm.
Men's Warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Let it be known that we do not speak for the brand or the company.
No, quite the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I probably could have guessed that without saying the name out, but yeah.
That's okay.
Okay. No, sorry about that.
That's okay. No, we're both not there anymore, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just don't want them coming after us, so we don't speak for the brand or the company.
Which is a whole nother story I'll tell you one day. What inspires you?
Well, I kind of just like, I take a lot of hints from either like movies or games or stuff I like to play or history. And then I find something interesting and I want to try to learn how to do it. So, and then I'll hear about something. I think, oh, that's really cool. And then I'll like dive in and do a bunch of research and spend hours and hours just like learning about something. And then I'll either get interested enough to like take that leap and then try it and then be excited about that process of like learning about something and learning something new and challenging myself. And then I'll come out with something and I'll typically move on to something else unless I have a reason to keep doing it. Like the stream allows me to kind of stay on top of this hobby instead of doing it once a month or whatever. So I a lot of times I go back to like, D&D is very, blacksmithing and, mead and brewing alcohol and all that kind of stuff, and watching Lord of the Rings and movies and stuff, so it's a lot of it's kind of like, I'm also, fascinated with like samurais and ninjas and stuff. And so I would love to eventually make I don't even know what they're called, but the masks and stuff that the old Japanese samurai would have, so I want to learn how to do that at some point. I like 3D printing, so eventually I'll get back into 3D printing again. So it's just kind of like I'll have an idea of something I want to do, and then I'll work on kind of just trying to get that in my life somehow. Trying to think with the last book I've been reading recently, it's been about welding and stuff, but mostly it's brewing. So I really want to get back into making alcohol again. It's been something I haven't done for a little while. So I'm probably going to buy some kind of new piece of equipment, and then I'm going to learn how to use it on stream, and we're going to brew alcohol, probably beer or something, on stream.
Just get it approved by your wife first.
Well, that's always a thing.
The purchase or the brewing part?
Yeah, it's brewing and stuff. So my wife was very supportive of my hobbies, and she
awesome.
is. But getting a new hobby is always a challenge because she feels I have a lot of them. So it's kind of more like I'm trying to regulate it to stream kind of stuff. So my stream is become my time to explore hobbies. It's my hobby time, really, is what it's become, unintentionally. And so, when I want to learn about something new, then I just try to, spend a lot of that on the stream, so.
Sure.
Because I can always watch videos and, read something if we're on the couch or if I'm getting ready for bed or whatever, I can watch videos. But then the actual doing time will be for a stream. Yeah. But I think anybody, and that's the kind of what I want to ask you guys. Are there any hobbies or crafts or things that you guys have wanted to kind of dive into that you haven't got around to yet?
This is my life. I live a life where I want to do all the things. I want to do all of it. So, not literally all of it, but like beekeeping was one. Mm-hmm. I had another one and now it's gone. I guess I'd want to learn to sing.
I would also love to learn how to sing. And unfortunately, I cannot do it very well. But
How do you do that on
the
a Twitch
talent.
stream? I'm sorry.
So that's a good question. So there is a game that you can play that it's like a just sing song or just sing or something,
Oh,
and you
Oh.
sing and you have to match the pitches,
Mhm.
okay.
and you pick the songs and stuff. And so I'm sure there's some kind of weird DMCA thing you might have to worry about for that, because they don't like when you play popular music. But I mean, that's one way you could try to do it. Um, but the musical thing is one
Mhm.
thing where you probably want to be at least somewhat proficient before you
Yeah.
dive in headfirst into streaming, because audio is important. And I want to learn how to play guitar, but I was kind of like, I kind of need to learn at least a little bit of how to play guitar before I try to like. I was going to do rock, like there's a rock band kind of thing, but it's some other kind of brand, but you actually play a guitar. You hook your guitar into your computer, and
Mhm.
it tells you the notes to play, and you play the notes along. And so it's a game that you play, but you can learn. So I was thinking of doing that
Sure.
as a stream eventually if I want to learn how to play guitar. So I think there are tools to turn that into a stream. I think you can really turn anything into a stream if you think on it enough.
Josh said falconry and blacksmithing. And your mom said, do you have a lot of fun stuff going on? Which is actually something I meant to ask you too, is where your creativity is taking you now. But I didn't want to interrupt your
Uh,
question. I just saw, I didn't want to miss that.
um, yeah, well, it's I mean, right now we're kind of in an interesting place. We went from me having a lot of, I won't say free time, but a lot of time on my hands to having almost no time on my hands. And I didn't stream for a few weeks because I just started the new job. I was trying to figure out my schedule, but now we're streaming one night a week on Saturdays, and it's after me working, 40. I work right now. I work 43 hours a week, and then I go to school for about 15 to 20 hours a week. I think maybe less than that, maybe around 15 hours. So I'm pretty tired,
Yeah.
and it's been affecting me a little bit on my Saturday night streams. I'm kind of just tired, but um, I don't have a lot of time right now to invest into besides one night a week. So right now I'm kind of doing the blacksmithing, but I'm looking at eventually starting a new career path that's related to welding. It's called a millwright, and that is an industrial mechanic, and it's part of a union, and you travel a lot. So I'm going to be having these evenings where I'm in a hotel room, and I'm going to be away from home. I'm not going to have anything to do, and typically a lot of these guys just drink, um, which is fun, but it's not something I just want to come home and drink in a hotel room all the time, and then go to work the next day. I don't think that's very productive. So I'm going to try to figure out how to find something that I can do on the road and still stream with everybody and still keep the community going and keep in touch with my friends. But maybe we'll do like miniature painting or something,
Cool.
or solo RPG games that I can play and then have some kind of chat interaction, or maybe we'll play some video games. I'm not
Zippers and
really sure
dresses.
what's that.
I said
Zippers
zippers and dresses.
I mean, I thought about learning how to knit. I think that might be kind of cool. This is another thing to learn. Um, so just trying to think of something new that I can do on the road. But right now it's probably brewing is kind of something I want to look at for the house stuff.
Yeah.
But the last person you had on your podcast said like this is a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we're on as far as being creative, and I'm not sure what my next kind of step is going to be. But I'm always learning new things and looking forward to seeing what the next one's going to be. So.
Awesome. Real quick too, I want to hear Trey's answer to that question you asked was what is something you want to learn? I'm sorry, I felt like I skipped you and I didn't mean to do that.
Oh no. Honestly, I don't know. Um, Something I would maybe kind of like to get into is to learn how to hand bead things. I'm not
Mm.
great at like hand sewing much. When I do, it's hot garbage. It's not just garbage, it's hot garbage.
It's fancy
So
garbage.
it's fancy. But honestly, whenever I'm like hand sewing stuff, I'm not very dexterous with it. So I would like to get better with that. Um, because you may not be able to see it, but there is a costume back here that I would actually like to hand bead with some different stuff on it, just to kind of like make it better and that sort of thing. Um, and probably, you know what? I would actually like to learn to code.
Ah,
Um, I
What kind of
haven't.
coding?
I don't know. That's the thing is I would like to, but then I realize that there are hundreds of options. So I do not know just yet. But
Are you
coding,
coding to
hmm?
like build websites, or coding to make things move or work? Or
I
I
don't
tell you, man,
know. I
great
don't
thing
know
to
what
do.
options.
So you need to look into something that's called Arduino
Hmm.
or Raspberry Pi.
oh yeah.
Okay.
Um, and those are two little hobby computers that you can hook all sorts of sensors and screens and widgets to. And so
Hmm.
if you want to make something that anytime you have a follower, it comes up on a screen behind you and puts their name across it. Um,
Ooh,
you
okay.
could get a little computer and set up the screen and find the code on the internet or write the code yourself. There is a huge, huge, huge educational community designed from anywhere from children up to people our age on how to learn to code using these little computers called Arduino, and the Raspberry Pi.
Hmm.
And there's the amount of things you can do with this is absolutely endless. Um, and it's just a fun way to dip your toes into coding. You could get to where you can kind of cut and paste things of code from this and that or whatever, or you can learn how to write something from scratch, or there's tutorials online for thousands of projects. And it's, I've always liked that because it's a fun way to kind of get into coding, but have an actual object you're working on and have a real result instead of spending 4 hours writing a piece of code to have like a website show an image that you don't have a website. And why do you want to show an image, you know? So it's just like a way of physically making things that have an absolute, a real effect immediately into the world, which is pretty cool, I think. But
Oh, it is. Thank you. I have never heard of either of those, uh, but Emily seems to. So, um, Seth, I think we're putting this on the list of things to look into. Seth, my boyfriend, is likes to build computers, um, and so that would probably be something up both of our alleys that we would get into. Um, but so yeah, just hand sewing and coding. A weird dichotomy of things, but there we are.
He said this list is growing faster than we can investigate.
you know, there are people that stream coding on Twitch. There are coders that stream on Twitch. Um,
Hmm.
so maybe you just need to start doing like some Twitch streams of like coding and hand beating
There you
and
go.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Seth, you can cross porcelain dolls off the list.
We've talked about many things, and when we go across the pond, that'll be one place that we avoid is any place with porcelain dolls. Um,
I feel like it's easier to find porcelain dolls there than here. But
I don't want to think about that right now, so we're gonna move on.
okay. All right.
Uh, John,
What is the costume that you have in the back? You mentioned the costume, and I can't. It was like a Batman costume from here, and I'm
oh
trying to think of how you would beat up a Batman
His
costume.
background is blurred.
yeah, hold on, let me unblur it. Virtual background.
Boop.
Set background. Okay. All right. So
Like a
let me go grab it.
Japanese thing.
Hold on.
So Trey has some kind of it looks like it's black with like a gold waistband on it, and
Yeah.
then it has gold cuffs. Is it like a robe?
It looks like a robe or a cape over it.
So it is a robe with an inner robe beneath it, with a sash running around it. And then I've made some harem pants to go with it. The harem pants are unfortunately stuffed up in a closet, but they are true harem pants. They are like 15 times the size of my actual hip. But everything kind of goes underneath. So what I like to do is I like Pokemon quite a bit, and I like to find real world inspirations and apply a color scheme of a Pokemon to that. So this one is heavily inspired by Middle Eastern wear of like 1560 to about 1620 ish. Just the general design of it. I don't want to ever be accused of appropriating, just really inspired by that. And this specific color scheme, yes, does look very much like Batman, but it's actually based on Umbreon.
Umbreon, okay.
So, oops, I did not mean to do that. Sorry. Umbreon is a Pokemon character, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Cool.
So,
Here.
but this is all hand stitched.
That's
Oh,
Umbreon.
that guy. Okay. Yeah.
So all hand stitched, and then I'm working on the remainder of it. But yeah, so ta-da!
So is that going to be something that you wear to Ren fairs? I heard you talking about wanting to go to one. Is that going to be like a Ren fair costume, or is that just something? What is your intention for the use of this piece that you're working on?
To go to Comic Cons. There's one close to me called Dragon Con. It's about 6 hours away, but eventually I would like to go to different anime conventions and wear this around and just show off what I made with my own two hands.
Cool. Is Dragon Con, is that in San Diego?
There's one in San Diego. Dragon Con is in Atlanta.
Comic Con is in
Yes.
California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, he's talking about bows. There's bow talk in the chat. Because the question was, what kind of bow would you make? And I said archery versus ribbon. Like making a bow for your hair is different than making a bow to put an arrow with. And they are chatting about that. Modern meaning a modern longbow, a composite of modern materials and natural woods versus many historical longbows that were made from a single piece of wood. Sorry.
I have a friend who wants to make a crossbow eventually.
Oh.
Cool. And I've always wanted to make a black powder rifle because it's blacksmithing, old form of blacksmithing. It's making the barrel and stuff, and so I always thought that would be cool as well.
Yeah.
But crossbows are pretty neat. Make an old medieval crossbow.
That would be awesome. I would use that in a photo shoot. The photo shoots Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Cosplays. Yeah, I was looking at some of your photography stuff, which is super cool, really good stuff, and it was
Thank you.
like a lot of people in cosplay in their costumes and stuff, and these really epic scenes, and so, like I saw one picture of a girl like with this long yellow dress or something. It was a super cool picture.
On a horse, yeah.
Yeah, on a horse. Yeah, that was epic. Yeah.
Yep.
Such a great picture. Yeah.
I go for the go big or go home.
What's your Instagram handle for those?
It's Emily Kramer Art. Kramer's with a K. It's also, if you're watching, it's on the screen.
Oh, it's right there.
Right there.
Right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Most of it's on there. Yeah, that's pretty much where almost all of it goes. I use Instagram more than Facebook, so yeah. I was planning on doing a stream of the next like big photo shoot I do. I haven't made that happen yet, but I thought that might be a cool thing to stream behind the scenes.
Yeah. So how are you planning on, like, what's your mobile streaming platform you're going to use for that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It depends on where I'm at, because probably just my phone. And then like you can download OBS and or I can just stream right to Twitch, right?
Yeah, you can do some stuff with your phone. Yeah. Just the biggest thing, if you're going to do that, just make sure you have good reception where you're going to be.
Yeah.
But it would just a quick security, something like that would work. People do that for sure.
I assumed my phone, because my thought was connection, because I can use like 4 or 5G if I don't have Wi-Fi out wherever I am.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I hadn't thought
give it a
past
shot
that.
and see how it goes. It's,
Yeah.
So I did some mobile streaming for a little while, and I invested a little bit of money into it because it was going to be it was a big part of the stream for a while. So I have an encoder and stuff, and it takes a few different modems. So I have like an AT&T one and a Verizon one, and then it like kind of combines those. So I always get like around 500K or 3000K bit rate.
Okay.
It takes the streams and like splits them apart and then reassembles them. So if you're worried about like latency and stuff, and like your stream kind of going up and down, it kind of helps fix that. But a lot of people also just use like a cell phone and a selfie stick or something, and in the spirit of just doing it, I think it'd be great just to try it and just see if it works. Are you gonna have like would your boyfriend be there to help you like manage the stream stuff, or would you be doing it by yourself?
I'd have to have help. I always have to have like a team, because they're not always. I take that back, because like I can go out and just do a quick little shoot, but usually there's a team of people just to help, because like there's always like a cape to hold, or I've bags of gear, and I figured I would just set the phone, because I have a tripod cell phone bracket holder thing, so I figured I'd just set it up and kind of let it roll, and then just address the audience as I can and have somebody kind of keep an eye on it.
I would look at a microphone. You'll want to get like some kind of like Rode mic or something like that. Like they have like a little podcast mic thing, which is, I don't know if you guys ever end up taking this podcast on the road and want to do some like live interviews or something. It's nice because you just clip it to a shirt and then you get audio that way, and it's pretty good. But that is something that you can hook into your phone if you have it. It has an audio jack on it. I know like the new iPhones don't. I'm sure there's a dongle for that. But that way you can have audio on, because that's one thing that's difficult with the streams is the audio, because you're going to be over here messing with someone's dress or whatever, taking pictures, and the phones can be 30 feet back or whatever.
So like Bluetooth, or are we talking like corded?
I think it's corded, but I mean if it's it's corded that hooks into your phone, but then it's all wireless, and it has a range of like, I'm not really sure, but at least 50, 100 feet, something like that. The little it's like a little Rode wireless mic. They're a little bit expensive, but they're really good quality, which is nice.
I'm taking notes.
It's a good opportunity for audio solution for that.
Okay. Cool.
And then do you have? Well, yeah. So that's definitely the easiest way to go, I think. Do you have an iPhone, or do you have an Android phone?
An Android. I've got a Samsung.
Yeah, so you still have a little audio jack, so I'm sure you can get some way to plug that into your phone and get the audio.
I don't actually. I do on my old Samsung, which would still take
Samsung
decent
took that
video.
away?
Yeah, on the new ones. So I still have my old
yeah.
one though, and it works fine, and that has
That's
the
gotta be
audio jack.
Stupidest thing, and it drives me crazy that like I have an iPhone and my dad got it for me because I wanted to have a certain app on it that I couldn't get on Android. And I got the iPhone, and it doesn't have like a headphone jack on it. Like it's just that's ridiculous. People and their technology,
I did find adapters though for the charging port that I can still plug, and I use that now all the time because I have tons of the earbuds I'm using now. I'll switch it to my phone, and then I can use it when I'm mowing and stuff.
Oh, good. Okay, so there is a solution there.
There is a solution, yeah, and I'm assuming it works for Apple as well. But I use it all the time, every week at least. So cool. That actually inspires me to to make that happen. I just have to. I guess Josh, we're gonna have to do a photo shoot. Because some of the best photo shoots. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying you happen to know someone who's working on a cosplay outfit right now, so
Right. He just.
maybe they'll be inspired to finish their cosplay bead work on it, and then now you'll have a shoot that you can do. See?
Yeah. So you just have to.
Together.
We'll either have to fly there. He's near Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm in Minnesota. So, but that's okay. There are airplanes.
No, because I can do anything. I'm just gonna sprout wings, and I'm just gonna fly myself up to Minnesota.
Okay. Just get the Gwai hair, eagles.
Yes. No, I'm gonna turn myself into a falcon. I specifically want falcon wings. Sorry. Do I ever take anything seriously? Yes, I do.
Porcelain dolls.
John, oh, God, no.
Well, you take them seriously, see? I'm sorry. We just derailed the whole thing.
You shouldn't have ever told us, man. This is...
And see, I was encouraged to be sharing, because what sharing is caring.
Can we all hang out like this more often? This is fun.
John, honestly, this was an absolute delight. I think we've all learned quite a bit, not only about blacksmithing, but also about beekeeping and mead making and so many different things. You are such an incredible person and such a versatile person with all of the interests that you have, and it's very clear that you dedicate yourself to understanding that, and not just as a hobby, but really from an appreciation standpoint. So to that, I have to say that you are a marvel, and thank you for all that you do.
Oh, that's very, very kind of you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you. And this has been a lot of fun being here with you guys and chatting about stuff. And one of the goals of my stream, one of the reasons why I started was that I think that a lot of us have hobbies that we want to try to learn and try to, we all have things we want to do, but I think a lot of us put up these barriers and stuff. And so part of streaming was always for me to try to encourage people to take up some kind of hobby. And that's why I picked Twitch, because a lot of us are I love video games. I play a lot of video games when I can. But I tend to get sucked in a little bit. And I thought Twitch was a great platform because I think there's a lot of people that play video games, but they also maybe want to do some crafty things. They just never quite took the leap. And so I'm always hoping to try to encourage people to pick up a new craft and share it in the Discord or come to chat and talk about it. And we always look at people's Instagrams and stuff. And so I was really excited when Emily reached out and said, hey, you have this podcast and stuff. And it's all about crafting and, encouraging people to be creative. And that's exactly what I like to do. So I really appreciate you guys inviting me here. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hang out with you guys. Yeah.
John, we have it up in the chat here, but for our listening audience at home, what are some ways that our listeners, or now your listeners, can interact with you?
So Twitch is kind of like the main thing. I'm always with work. It's been kind of a little bit bumpy for me right now because of my new job. But if you go to my Twitch page, which is twitch.tv/BurrowsForge, that's BurrowsForge. It has my Instagram and my Discord link there. Instagram's easy. It's just @BurrowsForge. And then Discord is another place that you can find the link there on my Twitch. But I always just encourage people to come in and hang out and chat, and I always love checking out people's stuff. So if you have cool drawings or other arts and craftsy stuff or anything like that, come in and share it, and we can take a look at it, and we always love that. But you can find me there. I usually stream. Right now it looks like it's Saturday nights around like 7 p.m. ish, depending on what time I get home from work on Saturdays. And I'm always looking forward to meeting new friends and learning new stuff. So
Hooray.
Um,
And go
well,
join the Discord,
Go join the Discord.
which is I just had it too and I lost it. Creator Forge, is that what it's called?
Creative Forge.
Creative
Yeah,
Forge.
I can find the link here while we're.
I had
Post
the
in the
link in
chat.
the chat and then I sorry. Yeah, Creative Forge. I got it.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Well, so folks, as kind of an intro out for us tonight, as we thank John again for being on with us, and also John's mom. Can we give it up for John's mom?
Yeah. Thanks for supporting him. This is awesome of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really cool having mom hang out. So.
Yeah.
And now we're all friends, and now we're going to get to see your chart. Um, so to everybody at home, we are now on pretty much every single podcast outlet available. You can't get away from us. I don't know if you noticed yet, but yesterday we moved into your home. We ate all of your pumpkin spice everything, your savory soups, your hearty stews, and we left you a grocery list on the counter right next to your pens.
Time to restock.
Time to restock because we're hungry. If you want to send us more treats or if you want to bake something for us, please coordinate with us at sendustreats@themodrom.com. Thank you to our moderators and producers. This episode, along with every podcast forever and ever and ever, is in memory of Joe Capone, our moderator, fellow comedian, critic, encourager, and phenomenal friend. You can listen for $0. Yes, $0. While we accept support through donations and through our online store, we always ensure listening to our podcast is free. Except for the data charges, which are an unfortunate levy of evil empire we seek to destroy. I mean, no, we actually pay for that service. Yeah, that. Anyway, you can find us on pretty much wherever you tune into podcasts. For updates, announcements, and info on our upcoming tour, please follow us on social media. With that, if you're still with us here on Twitch, don't go anywhere. At the end of every stream, we do like to go rate another channel. Rating is simply taking the audience that we have gathered here with us and taking it through the magic of the interwebs to another creative here on Twitch. Part of our goal here at the Modern Romantic Podcast is to go support other creatives like John here with us here today. So you don't need to do anything on your side. We're going to handle everything. But I would like to ask, Emily, who are we rating tonight?
Well, we were talking about sewing a little bit, and so I found someone who is currently sewing. I believe it is cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he is a cosplayer who is currently trying to thread his serger.
Oh, God.
So his name is Himbo Husbando. I'm not doing that justice, and I apologize. That's who we're rating, though.
Himbo Husbando.
Yeah, he's threading his serger. It's a good time.
Oh, God. And I mean this with all sincerity. Bless his heart. That is not something I wish upon my greatest of enemies.
You're gonna get to say that to him in person in just a minute.
Okay. Perfect.
Maybe he'll show us how to sew zippers into dresses.
I hope so, because I still suck at it.
Thanks again, John, for being on. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate
so
it.
good to chat with you.
So fun.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Okay. We rated.